Hey, I'm your host, Dr. Desiree Cassell. I'm an orthopedic and pelvic floor physical therapist specializing in women's health, aka pelvic floor. I'm a wife, mom of 3, foodie, lover of all things movement and nature, and I'm super passionate about educating, empowering, and supporting other women like you to find and maintain balance throughout all aspects of their lives, without pain, pressure, or peeing their pants. And this is the Balanced Momtality Podcast, where we will talk about all things pelvic floor, your core, and optimizing your pregnancy, birth, and postpartum recovery, providing you with the knowledge and tools so that you can feel like the strong, playful, and happy mom that you and your family deserve. Now let's get you out of those pads and back to loving movement. Fill up your water, pop in those AirPods, roll out your mat, and let's connect. Before we start today's episode, just a quick disclaimer that anything mentioned in this podcast is not meant to treat or diagnose any medical conditions. If you have any questions or concerns about your healthcare needs, please seek the care of your medical provider. This is also a safe space where we will be talking about very sensitive but important topics, such as issues with peeing and pooping, relationships, and even sex. So if you have littles around, probably a good idea to pop those AirPods in. But otherwise, I hope you enjoy today's episode. So, for those of you that don't know, I have been recovering from a pelvic embolization procedure. I'm about 2 weeks out now, and I have 4 more weeks till I am really cleared to return back to my higher level intensity exercises. I was bummed to find out that my provider doesn't really want me doing as much as I was hoping to be able to do. I was originally told it was going to be 6 weeks, and then he told me, oh no, just take like a week to rest and then you can ease back into things. But I was feeling pretty good this week and I wanted to get back into the gym and just take it really light. I was thinking of going to my high fitness class and just tapping it out and not really doing, the jumping jacks and all of the more intense things. And right before I was about to leave, my provider called me to follow up and he was just like, yeah, absolutely not. You're not doing that. And unfortunately, he said that my vessels were so dilated and he needed to put so many coils in that he just wants to play it safe and not be risky, because what can happen is one of these coils can dislodge and move around into my body and it usually ends up into your lung. And so we just don't want to mess with that. Apparently it's something that doesn't really cause too many symptoms other than shortness of breath. But yeah, no way I want a metal coil in my lung. So I am going to take it easy. I needed him to tell me. It's been interesting being on the patient side of this because I do have the struggle in my own mind, because I hear my patient self that feels like I do need to be doing stuff, but I want to be careful and not overdo it. And then there's the therapist in me that is also like, okay, you need to be active and show up regularly and don't fall off. Movement is medicine. It's going to help your fluid mobility and keep your strength and all the things, but also don't overdo it and go too soon. And it's been such a battle in my own head. And it's funny, I really needed my doctor and like my mom and some of my friends and my husband are just like, yeah, no, just go sit down, like listen to your body, because I am still getting a little bit of cramping. I've been walking, and so right now I'm getting cramping around 1.5 miles of walking, or if I work, it's usually around 12 or 1 in the afternoon, I start to get some cramping, or if I'm cleaning around the house, I can be up and around for about an hour or two before I do feel like I need to lay down and kind of rest. And so I am trying to listen to my body, but it is such a struggle because I'm afraid, guys, like I don't want to lose a lot of things. Obviously, I don't want to lose all my strength and my muscle mass that I built, because that's what I can feel just drastically deteriorating, as especially the first week and a half where I really just laid around. And now that I am moving around more, I am still laying around more than I was before this procedure. And so I I'm struggling with that, but more so I'm afraid to lose the habit. I'm afraid to lose the discipline I've had. If you've been listening to me or following my journey this last year, I was so proud of myself because I have been going to the gym really regularly. I've been exercising for 2 to 4 days a week for 45 to 90 minutes. Like, I've been really proud of myself for keeping that up. And I can already feel like my motivation just draining. And I was already, prepping for myself of what I was going to do instead. And it's okay. You're still going to do this breath work and mobility. And to be honest, I have not been very good at it. Like, my motivation is just starting to dwindle. I've been sitting and reading a lot of books, which has been really nice, but like a lot of books. I've read 6 books in the last 10 days total. And so needless to say, I've been sitting and reading a lot. And so the other day I was like, okay, no, really though, you have to get up and do some breath work at least, do some of your exercises that my own other pelvic PT I'm working with told me that I should be working on. And it's a struggle. And so I wanted to do this episode just for all of those people who find themselves in a state of plateau, whether it's a plateau or a regression, you're post-op recovering from something, you're postpartum recovering from something, you're recovering from a sickness, you just lost the motivation and you stopped doing your exercises and you're trying to get back in the groove. Like, this episode is for those people who are still trying to just get in some activity and movement, but not overdo it, but still just make sure you're showing up and creating that space for yourself and taking the time. And so I wanted to kind of tell you, and I shared the beginning just to give you my mental space, like where I've really been at, and also help you see kind of how I'm problem solving through this, because obviously I refuse to sit around this whole 6 weeks and not do anything. And I can feel my brain already wanting to do that. I'm like taking it the excuse to just sit on my butt, which, yes, I hear all of you. I just had a procedure. I do need to rest. I get it. But I know I'm resting too much. I'm sitting around a little too much. And so what I'm trying to do, because yes, I did get told I can't go back to the gym. And while I know there's an in-between, because I'm already, cleaning and I'm cleared to do all of that kind of stuff, and that is physical exertion. So I'm trying to just make the most of that. Like, what is my body already doing throughout the day? What activities am I already doing? And how can I get the biggest bang for my buck with all of those already necessary activities, whether it's cleaning, doing laundry, carrying groceries in the house. I am trying to get in more walks. So I think that's always a good thing to start with if you're post-op or postpartum or just getting back in the groove of movement. But walking is so healthy, so good for you. But how can we just take advantage of our day-to-day crap, right? Like, maybe you're not even taking the time to go exercise at home, even if you're protecting time for yourself and you are getting time in to exercise at home, 10-15 minutes, even if it's small amounts like that, can be so great. But say that's not even happening. Like, because let's be real, yesterday I was like, okay, obviously I have all this equipment at home. I'm going to pull out my mat. My husband was doing some more exercises, so I got motivated. I'm like, okay, I'll do some breath work and some gentle body weight stuff, because really the whole thing is I can't get my heart rate up too high and increase my intra-abdominal pressure. So I'm like, okay, if I just do some light body weight, take a lot of rest between my sets and not push it, that'll be fine. But I got through like 2 sets and then I was just done. I had like just no more energy. Like, I still had energy. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I was like, this doesn't feel fun anymore. And I was really quickly reminded why I go to the gym, because my motivation is just so hard to get at home. So again, it just didn't sound fun. I'm like, I don't want to do this. So instead, what I'm really trying to hone in on is keeping up with my house, keeping up with like my fundamental health needs. So for me, that's drinking enough water, getting enough sleep, taking my herbal supplements that I know support the stress and hormone response in my body and my inflammation, And my diet, I'm trying to really hone in on my diet. I'm really curious what these next 4 weeks, so it'll be 6 weeks total of me not going to the gym. And again, like 1 or 2 of those weeks were me kind of sitting on my butt. So these next 4 weeks, I'm really curious what will shift in how I feel and also my body composition as I'm not strength training, which has really been my big push is strength training. So I'm not strength training really anymore. And I'm just doing some lightweight body functional training. And mostly I'm walking, and I'm going to try and get into more light yoga. But otherwise, I'm really trying to hone in on my diet and hone in on these more fundamental pieces of my health. And so I'm curious what just that is going to do, if I'm going to gain weight because I'm not moving as much and I'm not getting that high heart rate, or am I actually going to lose weight because I'm focusing a little more on my diet than I have been the last few months. It'll be interesting to see. But aside from that, I do want to keep some strength and some functional control in my body. So what I'm doing is I am really trying to get in some functional exercises with what I'm already doing. So what that looks like when I'm doing dishes, for example. So right now we're just going to like clean my house. So we're doing dishes, right? So what exercises can we do while we're doing dishes? Well, I have quite a few. I'm going to post one of my videos I took a while ago of some moves that I like to do while I'm doing dishes on my Instagram. So if you are curious, you can go check that out, and I will post that. But think about it. You're standing at a sink. Okay. So one of the big things I like to do is calf raises. I'll sit there at the sink while I'm doing dishes and do calf raises. I will also squat. So you're turning and rotating and putting dishes in a dishwasher or on a drying rack. So squat while you're scrubbing and rinsing dishes. Just do some body weight squats there. That's awesome. Maybe you just do leg raises and you're doing side leg raises while you're standing there. Again, I have examples of these in the videos, but let's just think of like, what movements is my body already doing? And let's just make it intentional. So instead of just rotating and bending over and putting a dish in the dishwasher, we're going to squat down. Our core is engaged. We're exhaling as we're moving through that movement. We're engaging our glutes as we stand back up from that position. We're making it intentional. And again, if you're doing that while you're doing dishes, every time you're putting something in the dishwasher, you'll get in like 30 to 50 squats. Like all of this adds up. And it's such a great place to start, or a great place to be in when you're working towards getting back to those higher intensity movements or get cleared from your doctor to do other things. So that's some options during dishes. Another great thing that we can take advantage of is anytime we are carrying laundry or groceries. I love to carry the laundry basket right in front of my core and just zipper up my core brace, and I just keep it nice and locked into my body, and I'm breathing really intentionally, walking that laundry basket through my house. Maybe I'm even, sometimes I'll stand there and I'll bring that laundry basket further away from my body and then back in, right? So you're holding that basket, your core is engaged. You're going to exhale, move that basket away from your body. Inhale, bring it back. Exhale, move the basket away. Inhale, bring it back. The goal is no movement should happen in your spine. No movement should happen through the pelvis. You're engaging and you're breathing through it. So just functionally carrying that, right? Like maybe you have stairs, so you're carrying that laundry basket and you're walking up and down your stairs a few times. Like that's a great exercise. Or if it's groceries, I more like to put it on one side of my body if I don't have so many groceries that I have to load up 2 hands. If I have just a few bags, I really like to put it on one side of my body. And then again, that unilateral pull is going to give you more core engagement, because obviously your core has to engage to keep you upright and not let those bags pull you over to the side. So any unilateral weight, this could be a book bag, this could be a small laundry basket, or groceries and you're just carrying them on one side of your body and you're thinking of your core, you're engaging, you're breathing as you're walking them into the house. And then as you put them down, you're squatting down and you're releasing them and you're squatting back up. Or maybe you're lunging down and releasing them and lunging back up. Maybe you're deadlifting them down, right? Like there's so many different options for how we move and how we pick things up off of the floor. So even that, when we're picking up all of the kids' toys or all of the trash or all the random socks that are all over the house, like instead of just bending over and over again, no wonder our backs hurt. Like we are just bending over and picking crap up off the floor and we're not thinking about how we're doing it. So instead, when you do have to go bend over and pick stuff up, I want you to think about, how can I bend over and get this? How low is the object to the floor? How is it high, right? So like if it's a laundry basket, that's a higher object versus the sock that's all the way on the ground and you have to get all the way to the ground, because that's going to change how you get that object. So I really like to think about, as I'm moving through my house when I'm about to pick something up, can I squat to get this object? Can I deadlift to get this object? Which is just a hip hinge, okay? We're not getting scared just because of the deadlift term. It's really just locking in your core and hinging at the hips. Your knees aren't really bending, okay? Or can I lunge to get this object? So squat, deadlift, lunge. What makes it easier for you? If it's a higher object, try deadlifting to get it. If it's all the way to the ground, squat all the way down or lunge down. But we're still thinking about that core brace. We're zippering up. We're not letting our spine or our alignment move and change. And we're breathing through it. So we're inhaling as we bend over and we're exhaling as we come up, whether that's standing up from a squat, coming out of a deadlift, standing up from a lunge. We're exhaling through that, and we're putting a lot of emphasis and intention on how your core is engaging and how you're breathing through that movement. So just that in and of itself, if you make that an intentional piece of your day-to-day movement, you're going to get so much more bang for your buck and prevent injury in your body just picking stuff up off the floor, right? Which again, we have to do. The other thing that we have to do is wipe counters. So anytime we're wiping counters, again, I'm engaging my core and I'm trying to think about my core actually rotating and moving me more than my arm doing all of the movement. Or you can vice versa, engage the core, lock it in. Don't let the core move while your arm and shoulder are doing all of the work. But your shoulder's probably going to get tired and you're probably either going to have to switch sides, which is another thing to do, right? If you're scrubbing with one hand, make sure you switch sides. We want to even out the body. But we can also start getting some movement and some more controlled rotation through our core. Again, making sure we're not blowing through our body's boundaries, which next week's episode is going to be more on that. But really pressure, right? So making sure your core brace is engaged and we're not feeling pressure pouch out into the system. So as long as you're not feeling that increased pressure and pooching out into the belly and you don't have any pain and all of that, then you can rotate. Like we don't have to be afraid of movement. Especially, if you're postpartum and you don't want to get too much rotation, though I would, or like post hernia or an abdominal surgery, I would avoid too much rotation through the core and focus more on locking that core in and making your arm and your other parts of your body do the work. The other thing we always have to do is sweep, mop, vacuum, right? And this is something I get a lot of people complaining about issues with because there is a lot of rotation. And so if we're not careful, we can be very imbalanced and have it always be that we're vacuuming or sweeping or mopping with our body in the same position. So we've got the same foot in front, we've got the same hand leading, our core is rotating towards the same direction over and over again. So that's one of the biggest tips with those types of cleaning and functional activities is to switch sides. So if you've been sweeping one direction for a while, switch your leg posture, change your angle with the broom or the mop or the vacuum so that you make sure you are balancing out. But again, let's be intentional. Don't just be flexing your back and pushing and rotating this heavy vacuum or mop. No, let's get in a little bit of a squat, like a warrior pose lunge, and let's engage our core and use those hips. Use your hips and really lunge into it and guide that broom and the vacuum and the mop with the legs more so than your back. So we're not getting a ton of rotation and flexion, but you're still getting leg movement and we're still getting some upper body and core because we have to stabilize and hold. And so if you're like, I don't really know what that means or what that would look like while vacuuming or mopping or whatever, then again, reach out. Let's get you on a session so that we can look at how your body is already doing it and what little tweaks that we can make to help improve that. Because we really can make all of these activities that we're already doing, moving around our house, an exercise if we're thinking about it. And so the other one that I really love is, so like with mopping, one of my favorite ways to mop is to actually just get the floor wet with some wet soapy water and spray it down and then just use a towel. And so I'll like put my feet on a towel and I'll do different moves throughout the floor. I'll like kind of speed walk forward and speed walk back, or I'll lunge side to side, kind of like a speed skater movement, but my core is engaged. I'm pushing out with my legs and my hips, making sure my knees are in alignment, really just making it an intentional resisted exercise for my lower body. So you could stand sideways and just like sidewalk on that crab walk with that towel through your floor and mop. We can get creative here and really just play around with what exercise could I do while I do this. Sometimes if I have stuff on the floor that I have to pick up, and there's a lot of it, right? And I don't want to be like either sitting in a squat forever or bent over forever, picking up all these little Legos or all these pieces of crumbs and popcorn that are all over the floor. Sometimes I'll get on my hands and knees and I'll engage my core and I'll switch hands. One hand's picking it up, then I switch hands and the other hand's picking it up. Or if there's a big, spot on the floor that I'm scrubbing with one hand, switching, scrubbing with the other hand on my hands and knees while my core is engaged. We are getting exercise with these cleaning movements. And so this is what I'm going to be taking advantage of a lot these next 4 weeks. I am going to also just try and make sure I am getting in some gentle yoga and breath work and my own exercise program, but I'm keeping it small and I'm giving myself grace because the reality is I do need to listen to my body, but I also do need to move, and it's all about the balance. And that's really the name of the game, right? Like with everything, we don't want to overdo it, but we also need to make sure we are getting movement and sunshine and nutrients in our body. So I hope this was helpful and just kind of got you thinking and curious about like, how can I make what I already normally do? Maybe it's gardening. Maybe you have some other hobbies that you're doing that maybe you're sitting a lot because you are working from home, or you're sitting and crocheting because some of your hobbies are pretty sedentary. We can still get a lot of movement in just doing what we're already doing. Are we going to sit and stand at our desk while we're working from home a few times? Are there some gentle bands we can put around our legs and just push out into that band while we're sitting and doing some activity? Like even while I've been doing my book reading and have been pretty sedentary doing that activity specifically, a lot of times I'm still flipping my pelvis and my legs up the wall and I'm doing my breath work. So yes, I'm breathing, I'm getting some relaxation and lymph flow in my body, and I'm sitting there and reading. So I'm just trying to tap in and like really get the biggest bang for my buck, because let's be real, the time is minimal and we have to find the time. It's not going to find us. And just give yourself grace in this period where it's a little slower and maybe you can't be as intense as you want to be. Your body's not as strong as you want it to be. and it's going to take some time to get there. And the worst thing we can do is just take all the time off and then jump right back into those normal exercises. And that's when we see all of the dysfunction and issues, leaking, prolapse, pain, injury, all show up. And this is what I see so often postpartum or post-recovery from a procedure, because they're like, oh, I'm recovering. I'm just doing nothing for these 6 weeks. But oh, now I got cleared. Now I can run. Now I can go back to my workout class. Now maybe I'm just cleaning my house normally. And even that can be too much if we're not aware of our body's capacity. So start observing. What are you already doing, and how can we make it more for you? And if you need more help with that, let me know. My email and my contact information is down below. You can always come find me on social media. Again, Instagram is usually where I post more of these little exercise videos and tips, but I also have a Facebook community that is private and free and there for you, for support, to ask questions, to have accountability, to give me ideas for podcast episodes. This is all here for you. So let me know how I can help you. And otherwise, stay tuned for another episode on the Balanced Momtality podcast. Well, that's it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. And I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day. I know you've got so many other important things going on, but I hope it was helpful and you leave here with some tools to help you in your healing journey. And I just want to ask you, if you have found this helpful, to please leave a review on iTunes. Scroll down to the bottom of my podcast page and leave that 5-star review so it can help other women see this information. And also, if you want to be a part of my community of amazing women trying to balance all the things, great tips and insight and sharing stories and just motivating each other along the way, feel free to join my Facebook group, The Balanced Momtality Wellness and Support. I hope to see you here next time on the Balanced Momtality podcast.